Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, Give Yourself Permission to Lead Yourself First. With Barbara Nixon, we talk about needing to learn to say no and guarding her time, busy does not equal important or productive, and going where the fun is.
Barbara helps business owners and leaders get unstuck, improve their mindset, grow their confidence, and maximise their productivity so they can get the success they really want. After 20 years in the people development arena and helping hundreds of people achieve their potential, Barbara is on a mission to help amazing people bust through their comfort zones, prime their mindsets for success, and really step up into their own power so they can achieve their goals. Barbara is also a speaker, the author of The Boss Hat, and has been featured in Addicted to Success, Thrive Global, and the BBC.
Let's get started then, Barbara, with the first question. If you go back to childhood, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Do you know what? I really did. It's not what I am now, but I really knew. I wanted to be a chat show host. So I remember being, I don't know, probably about 11 or 12, and I was completely addicted to, it was probably Michael Parkinson, I think it was probably Terry Wogan, you know, those type of people. And I just loved the fact that they got free rein to sit there with a cuppa, talk to all of these amazing people, and it just looked like the best job in the world. But yeah, it didn't quite work out for me. I do get to talk to amazing people now with a cuppa, but it's not broadcast anywhere. And that kind of led me to do a journalism degree. So I did journalism and psychology, which is kind of like the most bonkers combination that you've ever heard of in your life. It just, even then, it didn't feel as though it fit. There were just two things that I was really interested in. I thought, I'd just go for it. So yeah, that's what led me that way. But I soon realised that it wasn't for me, and I had to do something different. I had to actually get a proper job, a real life job, and that's what led me to people development.
It's an unusual combination of, I don't think I've heard of journalism and psychology together. Does that make it then difficult afterwards to say, well, so you've talked about having a proper job. Is that because it was hard to actually see what was available with such a degree? Or there was nothing around?
No, not really. I think it kind of opened up a lot more doors because people were curious about it. And to be honest, people tended not to ask. You know, I mean, we're going back quite a long time now, so I'd probably say it's well over 20 years. So in those days, people were just pleased that you got a degree, and it wasn't too much of an issue what it was in. And also, it was a great interview question. Yeah, so what on earth made you think about those two, and what did you learn from those two, and where are the transferable skills, and all the general interview questions that you get? It kind of just opened up a conversation. So yeah, I remember doing halfway through my journalism degree thinking, actually, this isn't for me, and is this really the right route to get to where I wanted to be? And I was probably more interested in the psychology aspects of it and the people. I've always been a real people person. And again, looking back to childhood, I was the person, the annoying kid that was always trying to help everybody else. So if you couldn't skip, I was like, oh, come on, I'll help you do skipping, and I'll help you do. So yeah, it was probably a trait that was always in me to go into kind of people development and supporting other people. So when I left university and I started looking around for a proper job, like I said, because let's face it, at that point I just needed money, as most graduates do need. And I stumbled upon a job working for Asda at the time in their people development department, and I was there for 7 years. And I have to say that this was like the best gift for me. It was like it was probably the best gift for any graduate, but certainly for me, because I stumbled upon a department and a career where in those early days when I was probably about 21, 22, I realised that people development was kind of my calling. It's never got dull, you know, it's been something that I've been focused on ever since. So yeah, I was there for 7 years. I had an absolute ball just doing all sorts. And then I went over to Morrison's and did 5 years for them. So I had 12 years in corporate, always in the people development space, always just in that retail space as well, and just really enjoying myself and really kind of learning my craft. It was slap bang in the middle of the recession. It was 2010. And you'll remember, you know, when everything was just falling apart, wasn't it? And we had all the high street shops closing every single day, and it wasn't a great time economically. And I'd just come back from maternity leave. So at that point, I had 3 small children and a stepson. My eldest was 12. My youngest was, she was probably just coming up to 2, something like that. And I realised that this was the time that I wanted to jump ship and start my own business. You know, I thought, yeah, this is the time. And I always knew that I was going to do that. I always knew that I was going to have my own business. It was always on my bucket list. It was always something that I wanted to do. I just didn't know when. And to be honest, I really enjoyed that corporate space. I loved, you know, working in teams. I love the security is a bit of a loose word, isn't it? But maybe I just love the structure, probably more than anything else. Yeah, I remember when, like I said, I'd just gone back from maternity leave, and I thought, yeah, this is the time. If I can do it now, when everything else is falling apart, then I'd never need to worry. And I'd got to the point in my job where I was just ready for something else. And I think it happens just because you come back from a long maternity leave. It was the only time I'd had 2 other children previously. And it was the only time that I had such a long time off for maternity leave. So I've had something like 9 or 10 months. And I've never had that in my entire career. And it just gives you time to think differently, doesn't it? And it just to kind of put everything else into perspective. And at that point, I realised I wanted to be a different mum. I wanted to have a different experience of being a mum. I'd never done the school run. I'd never, you know, obviously been to school plays and things like that, but I'd never taken part in the day-to-day stuff. And I was ready to do something more. So that's when I went home, decided and told my lovely husband that, yeah, you know, that job that I had in food, that everybody needs. Yeah, I've kind of resigned today. So that was, and he was all right. Yeah, he knew that it was going to happen, but we just didn't know.
It wasn't just sort of. Do you know what? I was having lunch today, and I thought, do you know what? Screw this. I'm going to resign.
What's going to happen today? I should have texted you, maybe. Do you think?
Sorry, I didn't let you know.
Yeah, it wasn't like that at all. We did know that it was going to happen, but I didn't know what day it was going to happen. I knew that it was going to happen, but yeah. So every day was like, "Have you resigned today?" No, it's not today. It's not today. So it was that kind of conversation. So, so he was all right actually. But and I remember not long after I'd actually left work. And bear in mind, this was all I knew. You know, working in corporate was all I knew. I'd never done anything else. We went on holiday to Wales, and we were all in this cottage. And every night I woke up like at 2 o'clock in the morning, go, you know, I was sitting up in bed, and he'd go, "Are you all right?" Yeah, I've had this really weird dream that I've given up my proper job, my secure job, in the middle of a recession. And he's like, "Yeah, you have done that, but you're all right. You know, you have done that." So that kind of went on for the whole holiday. In which case we got to about Friday, and he went, "Yeah, we're going home. You've got to start. You've got to just get started because you're going a bit bonkers." So that's when my business venture, actually, my business journey started. Yeah, it was just really, really an interesting kick-off, to be honest. And what I hadn't anticipated was, because I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and I knew obviously I was staying in people development, and but I had no customers at this point. I had nothing, and I experienced the biggest loneliness ever. And that kind of hit me really hard, because I'd gone from working in an open plan office surrounded by people, you know, and there's chat going on, and there's your friends, you know, everybody's around you at work, to sitting on my own at home, and everybody's out because they're all either doing the thing, and thinking, no, now what do I do now? And that's when the loneliness really hit me. And that was probably my biggest lesson right early on, was what happened afterwards, because I started to try and compensate for the lack of team in my life. So I started volunteering for lots of different committees. So anything that the kids were involved in, I'd be on their committee. Yeah, the PTA, I'd be on the ice skating committee, and everything. And before long, my whole calendar was full with volunteering things, and there was no room for any kind of work at all. And I remember a potential client phoned me and said, "So can we meet?" And I'm looking through my diary going, "Yeah, no." So I just don't. And I realised really quickly that although it was probably a good tactic to surround myself with different people and have that team ethic in different parts, just to start saying no. And it was my first real lesson of actually running a business was, I've got to guard my time now. I've got to, step up and start saying no. And that's when I found a business partner. I thought that was the way to go. Yeah.
I had a fairly similar sort of, I've always wanted to do this, didn't love my job, so bugger this for a bunch of bananas. I'm just going to jump. It's really interesting how quickly you can fill your days with stuff. How did you go about it? So what did you do in terms of creating a business? What was the first step?
So, well, I knew I was kind of volunteering during the day and then working on my business in the evening, which was I just kind of mirrored my corporate life, which was, looking back, absolutely bonkers. But at the time, it seemed like the best thing to do. I remember having a conversation with a really good friend of mine. We were talking about this new business, and we were talking about what my plans were and my vision. And she was in the same field, but she'd worked with me previously. We'd worked together. And throughout the conversation, it then dawned on me that I needed somebody to work with at that time. So I asked her, I said, "Right, do you fancy doing it together?" And this was such a good move, because all of a sudden then we were able to build it together. And it was at that point that things really started to take off. And I kind of stopped messing about, so, put my business hat on and really started to focus. So it kind of ticked that loneliness box really quickly, but it also just gave me somebody else to bounce ideas off. We were in it together from that moment. So for the next 5 years, we built and created our training consultancy. So we designed and delivered management and leadership programs for lots of different medium-sized organisations, and we worked all over globally and just had an absolute blast. And during those 5 years, there was just so many lessons. But the one thing that really struck out for me was the importance of fun. Fun has always been a really core value for me. And the fact that we wove fun and a real element of fun into absolutely everything that we did. So, when I look back at that time, we just spent a lot of time just laughing. And because of that, we got things done. We were so much more productive. Our customers were just having a ball as well. Things were getting done. And it was an absolute joy, a real joy for 5 years. And then after 5 years, we realised that we both wanted to go in different directions, and it was, evolutionary, and, it was perfectly fine and very amicable. She's one of my closest friends even today. So it was just a natural progression. We both wanted completely different things, and we closed the business. And it was at that point that I was kind of like in a real crossroads. My kids were a little bit older. I'd had this experience of running an amazing business. I was stronger. I had a different head on. I knew how to run a business, but the guiding principle for me at that point was, what do I want? And that was a real sticking point for me at that point, because I'd gone from, growing up, going to uni, going straight into corporate, working for 2 big companies, and then running a training consultancy. So at no point had I ever stopped to have a bit of a think. At no point had I ever thought, right, really, what is it that what really matters to me? And I realised that I'd fallen into the trap of something that I see so many people, so many of my clients falling into, of putting myself at the bottom of my own pecking order. I'd been a mum, I'd been a business owner, a wife, and all these other hats, but none of them really put me at the top. For so many reasons, we just get caught into that trap. And sometimes we can feel guilty of putting ourselves first, can't we? But I realised at that point that in order for me to really enjoy the next phase of my business journey, I had to prioritise myself and what that looked like for me. I also realised that I wanted it to kind of be evolutionary. I wanted it to just grow organically, and I didn't want the pressure of just pushing and, you know, hustling all the time. And I, you know, I'm not naive. I realised that it's not easy necessarily, but I just didn't want it to feel too hard. I'm a big fan of taking the path of least resistance. So in that year, I mean, we're probably, what was it, about 2015, just before then maybe, I declared 2015 to be kind of a year of yes for me. And I don't know whether you've read the Shonda Rhimes book, Year of Yes. If not, I'd definitely recommend it.
With all of their shows, so I would imagine I would love it, yeah.
You would absolutely love it. So, yeah, Shonda Rhimes, the writer of Grey's Anatomy, we were talking about that before, weren't we? So, yeah, but she wrote a book, and she's got a really good TED Talk, The Year of Yes, where she decided that she was going to have a year where she was just going to say yes to lots of different opportunities. Yeah. For me, it was about saying yes to things that would light me up. It wasn't about saying yes to everything, because I had no problem with that, as we learned earlier. You know, that wasn't an issue for me. It was more about saying yes to things that would just fill my cup, if you like, that would just really light me up. And so I'd go where the fun was, and that's what I did. I kind of just tried lots of different things that year to see what would keep filling my cup up. And I just tried all sorts of things. But I also realised in that year that I was, unbeknownst to me, I'd become a master of holding myself back and getting in my own way, and sabotaging my own success. And that was something that I really had to learn. But doing my year of yes and putting myself first was a great way for me to kind of create a toolbox for myself, so I could have something in my back pocket full of tools that would help me get over all of any limiting beliefs, any kind of mindset issues, any confidence problems that would just really kind of help me to push myself forward.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. It reminds me actually of talking about the Year of Yes. There's a movie called Yes Man, which is Jim Carrey, and he's not everybody's favorite actor necessarily, but the principle is that he goes from being in a job in a bank, fairly unhappy, he's separated from his girlfriend, sits at home when he's not at work and eats and just watches telly. And then all of a sudden he's introduced to this concept of yes and embracing life. And he just starts saying yes to things. So it's like, oh, do you want to come to our band's gig this weekend? Yes, please. Do you want to come to Korean lessons? Oh, yes, please. I'll have some of that. And all of a sudden, his life just transforms from the people he meets and from learning guitars and languages. And his life goes from being fairly miserable to finding the love of his life and being sort of. So it's quite
none of that happened for me.
It is Hollywood.
For me, like I said, it wasn't about. It wasn't about saying yes to everything. It was about just being really focused on the things that would, for want of a better phrase, to fill my own cup, you know, to just energize me, to align myself back with my own values and principles, and just decide what it is that I wanted next. And like I said, I tried all sorts of things, even super simple things like taking myself out for lunch during midweek. I'd never ever have dreamed of doing that. I don't know whether you've ever just gone out for lunch on your own midweek. I certainly hadn't at that point. I'd never have gone to a cafe and just eaten alone, just for the sake of it, and not because I was, you know, needing to eat. And going like to the museum throughout the day, just not with any kids in tow, just because I wanted to have a look at something. You know, little things like that I'd kind of just weave into my week. And like I said, before I knew it, I realised that those tiny little tweaks that I was making throughout my day, and it was probably not a day, but certainly months and weeks, it was making so much difference. You know, I was starting to get headspace. I was able to appreciate me a little bit more. I was able to identify what I wanted and start being more in tune with my intuition as well, which was really nice. And it rubbed off. It had that ripple effect as well. So I was happier everywhere else, you know, so in just your family life and everybody else. So having that headspace to think again is something that that was another really important lesson for me, because again, I see that with the people that I work with. We get on this hamster wheel, we get on this treadmill, and we just keep going. And I was so guilty of that. Just keep moving, and you have this long to-do list of things that you just feel like you're plowing through all the time, and never giving yourself any opportunity to just chill. And chill, not in that my chilling was like in front of a video, crikey, a movie or something. It wasn't that long ago. On TV, or just getting lost in a series, and that's just not enough. It doesn't do enough for you, I don't think. So yeah, it was a really big lesson. And throughout that year, I started to get asked by people if I wanted to coach them one-on-one. And I'd always coached people, coaching, since the start of my journey, really. So being a coach wasn't new to me, but it'd never been something that I solely did. So that's what I did. I started to say, yeah, okay, let's do that. And it was just to let things happen, rather than to go looking for it, and just kind of explore and be curious. And I started to get a lot of requests from leaders, managing directors, business owners, say, do you fancy just working with me one-on-one? What do you think? And I realised very quickly, the more people I worked with, that they were having exactly the same problems over and over again, that it didn't matter how big their business was or how big their team was, if they worked alone or, everything in between, they were still struggling with the same things that I'd struggle with. Things like saying no, things like, getting caught on that hamster wheel and managing your time and being productive. Things like putting yourself first and just giving yourself permission to lead yourself first, and that be okay. And battling with confidence and feeling, second guessing yourself and feeling the fear and all of that sort of stuff that I'd gone through. And I realised that was a common denominator for all of my clients. And it became what I do now. Yeah, this is what my business model is, to support people and leaders, business owners at all levels, to help them actually overcome all of that stuff.
Because there's elements, aren't there, of I think in society, from what I see, it's almost like you have to be seen to be busy. And it's almost, would you say it's vulnerability, if I can say that correctly, that actually resting, relaxing is so that you can always be on top of your game, whereas you're not allowed to show that in the sort of traditional Western society?
Yeah, I think there is this kind of just, I think we're all a bit conditioned, aren't we, just to be busy, that busy equals important, if you like, but it really doesn't. It just doesn't. And one of the things that I teach is busy doesn't equal productive. I see people being super busy from the second that they wake up to the second that they go to bed. When you ask them actually how much of that has actually moved the needle on your business, probably not that much. Again, it's that old saying, isn't it, working smarter and not harder, and it is about just really looking and protecting your time and guarding it and thinking, right, okay, if I only had 2 hours to work this week, what would actually make the most difference for me in my business? What could I actually be doing? And usually when people answer that question, it's not the things that they're actually doing. They're doing everything else, the things that they don't need to be doing at all, or they could be delegating, or they could be, or outsourcing, depending on what's easiest for you, or just crossing off your list and saying, actually, if I didn't do it, nothing would happen. Yeah, nobody would care. It'd be okay. And just really being super targeted and about what is it that I'm going to do today that is actually going to make some difference. And then even if that takes an hour and you take the rest of the day off, at least you've spent an hour doing something super productive that's got a bit of weight attached to it, rather than 8, 9, 10 hours of doing like nonsense. So it is funny, isn't it, how we kind of feel like we need to be super busy. But in actual fact, in my head, after being super busy, it's so much more important to be productive, to get the biggest bang for your buck. Because let's face it, there are more fun things to do, isn't there, if you have the choice? Or if you were going to work 8 hours, 8 hours of pure gold is even better if you really think about everything that you're doing.
Yeah. I really love, when I first read it, the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week.
Yeah.
It's almost like, whoa. And then obviously people took it too far. Like a chap in America basically outsourced his entire job to somebody in, like to a development company in China. But it's almost, this information in there was really useful around emails and only responding during like set hours, and kind of being more disciplined with your time and what you say yes to.
Yeah.
I think we struggle with saying yes to everything, don't we? Yeah, we can do that,
Just sweep it in.
Yeah, but we do, excuse me, we do try and, I shouldn't talk for we, should I? I should talk for me, is if I'm not feeling in a particular frame of mind for something creative, but I've got a bit of grunt work I need to do that doesn't require a lot of mental energy, then I'll switch tasks. Or if nothing's happening, well, I'll try to do something else, rather than be the sort of traditional model of you'll come to your desk at 9 a.m. and you'll not leave until lunchtime. You'll have your lunch at this hour, and then you'll do the same in the afternoon until home time when you're allowed to go. Sometimes we're really creative in an evening, aren't we? So we'll actually do tasks in an evening. So
it's where your energies are.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're spot on. And again, it's about listening to yourself, isn't it? I'm a night owl, so I'm absolutely rubbish in the morning. If you were to ask me to have this conversation at 8 o'clock, I wouldn't be able to remember my own name. You'd be like, you don't just get some kind of gibbering mess in front of you. But yet later on in the day, like in the evenings, my creativity just like pings on, and I'm on it. Yeah. So it's just about doing what's right for you, definitely, and getting out of this old school thinking of really I've got to be super busy, I've got to be seen to be busy. Because we do. It's funny, isn't it? So when you go to networking events or you bump into people, they say, "Oh, are you busy?" We go, "Oh, yeah, we're busy," and it's often the wrong question, isn't it? It's
are you doing fun stuff?
Are you happy? Yeah, are you happy? Maybe we should ask that, but we just don't. It's just, are you busy? Yes, and it's just a hidden phrase for a hidden sentence of, have you got enough work? I guess, isn't it? Have you got enough on?
Yes. Do you come across a lot of your coaching clients that are heading towards burnout or coming back from burnout? Is that something you're getting a lot of?
I don't tend to get as much of burnout, but for me, my clients tend to struggle more with the holding themselves back, they needing help in terms of confidence or just second guessing themselves. But burnout, it does pop up from time to time, especially when we've got all these plates that we're spinning constantly, because work is just one hat that we're wearing, isn't it? Everything else on top of that, being a mum, being a dad, being a husband, all these hats that we wear all the time. And then this kind of urban myth of having work-life balance, which I've not actually ever seen that working in fruition, coming to fruition yet. I think for me, I don't actually believe in work-life balance. I think when you talk about balance, it's all about, it conjures up feelings of equality, having equal sides. Whereas for me, it's just about, does it feel right? Is it right for you right now? And we all secretly know, right, if something's not quite right or out of sync, or if we're doing one at the expense of the other, and we need to just self-correct. But it's just about just being more in tune with yourself and giving yourself permission to sway the other way if you need to, and just look at your personal life more.
Yeah, sort of. Otherwise, I totally agree with that. It's like suggesting that, I've spent too much time with work, therefore I need to balance up and put a bit more time into family life or some other activity. Whereas really it's about designing the best life in general, which fits all these different things in that we want to do and achieve.
It's true, and it's got to be right for you. Again, I'm a big believer in creating your own rules. It doesn't have to be conventional. It doesn't have to kind of fit into any kind of box.
No.
And I remember reading an article, and going back years, and it's always stuck with me, about this executive, and she really struggled for ages trying to get home. She was a mum with the kids and a busy house, and get home for dinner. And she really struggled to get home for dinner every single night. And then all of a sudden the penny dropped, and she thought, why am I trying to fit my life into a box that everybody else says you should have dinner together, why not let's have breakfast together and let's have that as our meal, our family time. So she changed that in her family, and so they were all up at breakfast. They all made that their main meal together as a family, and nobody cared about dinner. They still had dinner, but it wasn't about being together for dinner. And she didn't feel the pressure of needing to leave work and rush home or miss dinner. And she said it worked a treat. And again, it's about giving yourself permission to design your life that's right for you, that's right for you and your family. It doesn't have to fit into any kind of box or stereotype or category. It's just about what actually works for you, what's going to make you happy.
Yes. At the beginning of this COVID-19 situation, for want of a better word, there was so many kind of, I am now, winning at life and homeschooling, and I'm so perfect on social media, that it was just almost bonkers. I'm going to post my entire schedule for my children, and they're going to be more than when they go to school. They're going to get way more learning, and it's kind of the pressure that put on people. I was just like, failing at parenting, failing at homeschooling.
And we did that. We had a day, because it was so new for everybody. I'd never taught anybody at home. You wouldn't want me as a teacher, at all. And my youngest, luckily I've only got one that I have to teach, and she's 12. She's just gone up to high school. So we had guidance that she had to follow her timetable. And I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me. I don't know any of this stuff. I don't know. I can't remember like high school maths and fractions and what is that? And then all of a sudden, that's what we're faced with. So I had all these amazing intentions. And then the first day, I said, right, we've got your timetable, we'll follow it. We got to about 10 o'clock and I went, we've been in this. This is not working. How can we actually create this to work for us? We actually sat down, me and my daughter, because I was more flexible and my husband's still having to do his proper job at home, so he's a bit more structured. So it was all down to me. And we sat there and said, right, how can we design this so we're both happy? What is it going to actually look like? And just let's bin everything else. And what we decided to do was just do a whole subject for a day or 2 days, and then that's it, just one subject for a couple of days, and then we'll switch to another subject. And that allowed me to get on with my business. So she knew exactly what she was doing. We were all focused and no stress. I thought, and then we'd have one day, obviously, where we were doing crazy fractions or something. But I could get my head around it and build my life around that. So I needed to get my head into gear. But other than that, it's just about doing what's right for you. Yeah, social media is a killer for that, trying to shame us into doing stuff. Like baking. See, I don't bake. I couldn't bake to save your life. And seeing all these amazing cakes just pop up on Facebook, I'm like, no, that's not happening in my house.
You bought some cake kits.
Oh yeah, we did too. Yeah, the boxes.
Sprinkles sorted.
I feel amazing. I've done something.
And James made banana bread finally, which is a teeny tiny bit left.
Yeah, it's good.
So
we'll have to put the recipe out.
Yes.
Yeah, you should. That'd be good.
So yeah, we interviewed a lady last year now, wasn't it? Who runs a sort of a baking supplies company, and so sprinkles is what she's known for, so getting loads of different types of sprinkles. And so she was selling really early doors sort of a cupcake mix, and we're like, send them.
That sounds amazing.
And she's got this really cool banana bread recipe. It's amazing. So
you see, I'm all for that. I've got nothing against baking and people but I'm a big fan of cake and eating, but it's just too scientific for me, having to measure things out properly, and I'm very much a slapdash. Yeah, exactly. I'm too slapdash. So when I cook, I'm like, a bit of that and a bit of that and see what happens. So I just haven't got the brain power to bake properly. So yeah, it's just not something I'm born with.
Well, it's the decorating that I'm properly pants at. And none of us really like icing anyway, so what's the point?
It does look good though, doesn't it?
Yeah, mine never look good.
I like those like spray aerosol icing cans that you can get where you just like literally squirt it on. I'm all for that.
Let's move on to the quick fire round. 3 quick questions. So question number 1, who is the best role model a person could have?
Oh, that's straight off the bat. That's a good one.
They do get easier than this.
Oh, thank God. Who is the best role model? I think somebody that you can trust, somebody that you look up to, and somebody you've got access to, I think. You know, I'm thinking as I'm talking of all the amazing role models that I've had in my life, and they tend to be the family members or, you know, people I've worked with. So definitely people that you just look up to and you think, actually, I'd love to do what you're doing.
I like that.
Awesome.
And it's linked to happiness, isn't it?
Okay. So question number 2 is not as deep. So how do you feel about putting pineapple on pizza?
Terrible idea. I hate pineapple. I wouldn't even eat pineapple if it was like in a bowl. Hate pineapple. And also I think I'm turning off pizza. So yeah, I'm saying it here first. I haven't actually admitted that to myself.
Don't like pizza. Like,
No, yeah, I need to think on that a little bit. But right now, in this moment, pineapple and pizza definitely not a good idea.
Okay, there's usually 2 camps, aren't there?
Yep.
So question number 3, what cheesy song do you love?
Video Killed the Radio Star.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I just love it. It never gets tired. Yeah, that is definitely just a put on, dance around the kitchen kind of song.
That's brilliant. Was that the first video that was ever played on MTV? Or am I just making that up?
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
that's a cool
fact. That one up.
It is. I need to look into that.
Yeah, I might be talking nonsense, but you know.
I like it.
Okay, and then the final proper serious question. If you could get yourself in a time machine and go back to your 18-year-old self and have a wee cup of tea with her, what advice would you give to her?
To follow your gut. Oh, absolutely, to follow your gut. I've got this firm belief that everybody secretly knows what's right for them and what they should be doing. But we just kind of muddy the water by looking, you know, asking people or questioning ourselves and all the rest of it. You know, just to follow your instincts every step of the way and you won't go far wrong.
That's brilliant.
Very good advice.
And if somebody wants to get in touch, what's the best place to find you?
So the best place, I am on LinkedIn. That's probably my main playground. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, so all the usual places. But my website is barbaranixon.co.uk, so you can come and hang out with me there.
Awesome.
Very insightful.
So Barbara, thank you ever so much for taking the time to talk to us today. It's been really interesting.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.